gentlemen, ladies and gentlemen, ladies and gentlemen, for
this is the Payback review episode of the show, and people are going to be kind of upset at how the match played out. The main event played out, but I think ultimately it was the right decision. But I wasn't thrilled with how it ended. So for people who might not have watched, we could do some reviews. We go through the main event first because you don't want to bury the lead. Even though it'll probably be smarter for me to wait until like 10 minutes into the review to do the main event. But all right, so Roman Reigns wins the Universal Championship. He actually pinned Braun Strowman with a single spear, which is really weird considering Strowman was looking pretty much indestructible up until this point, which is what I don't like. I do not like when they do that. WWE, they essentially did, one of those old TNA Monsters Ball matches where it was just two big guys or two lunatics going in there and they just hit each other with everything. And Roman didn't do anything in this match. He really didn't do shit. He didn't take a bump, that's for sure. He came he did not take a bump. So I think he did. I think he fell outside the ring. I think that was the only bump he took in the whole match. But the Fiend entered first, and then Strowman actually attacked the Fiend during his entrance. And those two did the bulk of the match. The bulk of it was just them just continuing their fight from SummerSlam. It was pretty good, Like I always dig sort of the their brawling. Strowman he's built like a tank. Now that they shaved his head and he doesn't wrestle in a tank top anymore, he really looks like a straight up monster. Like they got his look together. Unfortunately, he's stuck on the same brand with the Fiend and with Roman Reigns, but I really like Braun Strowman now. He's actually pretty good. Fiend actually used his giant toy mallet this time. He actually hit Braun Strowman with the mallet this time. There were some pretty cool spots. Strowman speared the Fiend off the stage through a table. That was a pretty cool spot. Then they did the Mark Henry Big Show. They do it once every couple of years where the ring breaks. And a lot of people they kind of rolled their eyes at the ring breaking. But it kind of fit this time, because Fiend and Strowman is a lot like Big Show and Mark Henry. There's it's like almost 1,000 pounds between the two of them, like 700 and some odd pounds hitting the ring at the same time. I think Big Show and Mark Henry are both a little bit heavier than they are, but visually it made sense. So the ring breaks, and once they're both down and the ring breaks, that's when Roman comes in. Roman signs the contract at the top of the ramp, strolls into the ring with a steel chair, goes to work on both guys. The Fiend, of course, because the Fiend is the Fiend, he wakes up and he puts Roman in the mandible claw. Roman kicks him in the balls. So even if you're a supernatural demon out of somebody's imagination, you still get kicked in the balls. That still hurts. And then Roman pinned Strowman with a single spear. They showed Paul Heyman watching intently in the back. They also showed Alexa Bliss watching from the backstage. I thought both of those were a nice touch. Roman wins the title. He walks away, and he didn't really do that much work. So I don't know how I would score this match. It was just basically a continuance of the Strowman Bray match from SummerSlam. It was okay, it was a little bit more destructive, or about the same level of destruction. So if you liked the Strowman Bray match from SummerSlam, you probably would like this too. Except you probably wouldn't like the Roman Reigns involvement. I know I didn't really. I think that was the weakest part. It was advertised very heavily on the Roman Reigns angle, and we really didn't get a lot of that, which, it kind of makes sense that they kind of want to save some of it for SmackDown. This is exactly what we thought it would be, as far as it just being a vehicle to get the belt on Roman. It's exactly what they did. They didn't put any extra effort into it. They just said, belt has to go on Roman, put the belt on Roman with as little effort as possible on Roman's part. Maybe he's not ready to get back in the ring full time yet, or maybe they're just trying to save the match. But But Strowman was the one who was pinned, and now he's sort of out of the picture. Who knows what the hell he does? And maybe the Strowman Fiend thing continues, which it seems like it might, because Alexa Bliss is still involved. So that's kind of it. But whatever, whatever. So Dominic and Rey Mysterio defeated Seth Rollins and Murphy. Dominic did all his usual stuff. He only really does lucha stuff. So tumbling arm drags and tumbling DDTs. Both him and Rey did a good job of being babyfaces in peril at different times. It was actually quite sweet that Dominic was outside the ring, had been jumped by Murphy and Rollins, and Rey was looking for him, calling for him. Even though Rey was in peril, he was kind of looking to Dominic to tag out. And I thought that was pretty cool, considering that you would think that it would be a thing where Rey would try to protect Dominic. He tried to treat him as an equal in that respect, where he let Dominic lead the match as far as start the match. And Dominic started, kind of on fire early. Some of his lucha is a little clunky. Obviously, he's still not ready as far as being able to carry the emotional weight of a match. Physically, he can sell, though. He does a pretty good job selling, and Seth Rollins made him sell a lot. So it was pretty good. Murphy took the loss, which of course I said that Murphy was just in this match to take a pinfall. They did a decent job in this match of telling the story that maybe Murphy and Rollins are having some dissension in the ranks. They haven't shown a lot of dissension between Murphy and Rollins in a while. The last time was the Aleister Black incident, where Seth Rollins sort of made Murphy, against his will, puncture the eye of Aleister Black on the steel stairs. He didn't really want to do that, but Seth made him do it. And in this match, essentially, Seth was about to buckle bomb Rey. Rey reversed it. Well, Seth told Murphy to kick him in the head as he buckle bombs him into the corner. Rey reversed it, so it's like a Hurricane Rana, where Seth Rollins' head went into the turnbuckle, and then Murphy kicked kind of like he was supposed to, because everything was supposed to go smooth. Seth Rollins sold it like he got shot in the head and fell outside the ring. And then, of course, he ended up getting 619'd and pinned by Dominic. So it was a good match, though. It was a really good tag team match. I enjoyed it. I like the Rey Mysterio Dominic stuff. Eventually, we have to end this storyline. And, that's kind of where I am with it. Like, they having good matches. They have not had a bad match yet in this storyline. But I am kind of tired of every incarnation of this match. Every incarnation of these same four guys wrestling each other. But I am interested in where do we go from here with Murphy and Rollins, because there was a lot of disappointment in Rollins, the way he looked at Murphy. And I think maybe that's the next step in this story, is that now that the Mysterios are sort of bonded and Rey can wrestle again and Dominic's by his side and they're looking stronger than ever, now you have the heel sort of breakdown. Where they're looking at each other and they're like, I'm not really liking what I'm seeing here. And it hasn't been a lot of development. Murphy hasn't been given much development at all. So it's about time. It's about time to develop Murphy as a character, as a person. He actually needs to talk. Murphy has not said a word on TV, and which seems like all year. I don't think he said anything, period, since the pandemic has started. I think the last promo he probably talked when there was crowds, and that was a long time ago. So it's about time for Murphy to actually start talking and developing his character, and not just standing there and being, because as it sits right now, anybody can be what Murphy is doing. Anybody can do what Murphy is doing. So you have to ask yourself, why him? Why him and not anyone else? So not really a fan of that. I do like that him and Rollins are wearing matching tights, though. I thought that was weird. They look like a real tag team out there. So that was interesting. Keith Lee defeated Randy Orton, which was a big surprise. It was such a surprise, I did not pop for the finish, because I was like, okay, Randy's going to kick out of this. So Randy got beat by the Spirit Bomb, which is the elevated power bomb. It's like the Undertaker's last ride into the Batista Bomb, which is actually just a setup move for Keith Lee. I guess they're getting rid of his finish, which is the Big Bang Catastrophe. I guess they're going to get rid of that, and they're actually going to go with the Spirit Bomb as a finish, because I would imagine they were changing his finish if Randy Orton stayed down for this move. It was a good match. Not as good as it could have been, but I think it was pretty solid. They told some pretty good stories in this match. Basically, it was just a match to get Keith Lee to pass the Randy Orton test. I've said it before. There needs to be like a Wikipedia article on the Randy Orton test. But that's basically what it was. Randy was in there doing what Randy do. He didn't do everything that he does. But it was a solid-ass match. It was pretty good. Randy got to show, Keith Lee got to show some strength, sort of like he did on Raw against Randy Orton. Randy, was kind of pulled a little bit of a Shawn Michaels, where he was kind of really working hard to get Keith Lee over. He hit Keith Lee with like 3 big chops, like 3, he claimed he was educating him on who Randy Orton is. So he chopped him like 3 times, like really thick chops too. And Keith Lee was able to absorb them and then sort of hulk up afterwards and then hit him with Grizzly Magnum. That was pretty cool. They put each other, the Randy Orton sort of side slam onto the table, the announce table. Both of them did that. That was pretty cool. Keith Lee hit his pounce on Randy Orton, and Orton bounced outside of the ring and rolled all over the floor. It was Randy really did. Randy, you can't say he didn't try. If it doesn't work, you can't blame Randy. Randy did his part. And I'm surprised Keith Lee won, so that's good. That's great. I'm expecting now Keith Lee versus Drew McIntyre for the title at Night of Champions. They have not told, Night of Champions is supposedly September the 27th, but they also had a commercial where it says September the 20th, so it's either the 20th or the 27th. Either way, I do expect Keith Lee versus Drew McIntyre for the WWE title. And that might be pretty cool. I think this is just a way of getting Randy Orton out of the picture, unless it's going to be a triple threat match, which I don't like triple threat matches. And I do like, but I did like this match, maybe, but they showed what Keith Lee can do. They actually got rid of his skirt tights this time. He actually got to wear straight up tights. He just had to wear that damn shirt, which was still claustrophobic. And of course, his music has not changed, which is sad, but it's not going to change anytime soon. Because they still have to deal with the CFO $ shit. So the Women's Tag Team Championship, Shayna Baszler and Nia Jax actually won this match, which was a surprise to me. And it was actually a surprise because Shayna Baszler looks like a fish with Legos trying to play a babyface. She is just completely out of her element. It just looks so fucking weird with her doing a hot tag and having to come in and do, fast-paced comeback offense. She does not have a comeback. I don't think she has babyface offense. It was just really strange seeing her positioned as the hot babyface to come in after Nia Jax had done a lot of selling and different things like that, which is really weird. But it was a decent match. Pretty good match. The video package all told the story of Banks and Bayley essentially dominating the women's division. There was little to no story at all for Baszler and Nia Jax, which kind of told you that they were going to win. Because it's kind of almost like it was supposed to be a surprise that they would win. But it was cool. Shayna played the babyface in peril early in the match. They did it in sort of both tag team matches where they would do both baby faces would be in peril at times. And of course you do that in a standard match, but it almost seemed like they were trying to extend the matches longer. So both baby faces had to be in peril. The time when Nia Jax is in peril was actually okay. It was pretty decent. They worked over her knees. I guess her surgically repaired knees. I'm pretty sure she had surgery on her legs. But it seems to me like they put these two together so that they can capitalize on Nia Jax's personality and Shayna Baszler's in-ring ability, where, Nia Jax is going to be the personality of the group, because after the match, she was super excited and, being loud and, whooping and everything, and Shayna Baszler is kind of like, yeah, we're going to go celebrate now, like very much like a mechanic I hope it's not going to turn into some head cheese type shit, where it's basically Steve Blackman and Al Snow, where Shayna Baszler is going to be like really. I noticed that they've been doing that a lot lately with Shayna Baszler, where they've been putting her around silly people. Like she's been doing a lot of stuff where she's been hanging around R-Truth on like Raw Talk, and she's kind of been doing that, where it's kind of like they've been trying to endear her to other people, or endear her to the audience by making her the straight person. And what I'm trying to say is like the straight man in a comedy. That's kind of what Shayna Baszler is now. She is the straight person in the comedy of Nia Jax is apparently going to be silly and over the top, similar to how Shayna Baszler plays sort of the straight guy in her Raw Talk segments with R-Truth, which I only really see clips of online because I have never sat down and watched Raw Talk in my life. The finish was pretty cool. I'm not really a fan of big gimmicky finishes, and I think this was a gimmicky finish, but I didn't mind it because I'm glad Sasha and Bayley lost. So it was I guess you'd call it the Muda lock, where Sasha's legs were sort of trapped together, and while Shayna had Sasha's legs trapped together, she put Bayley in the Karafuda clutch and leaned back. And then Sasha Banks tried to rake the eyes or whatever, and then she draped Sasha's arm over Bayley's throat, and so it seemed like they was choking Bayley with two arms. That's really where, and Bayley tapped out. Of course, makes no sense that Bayley would be the one to lose. Bayley's always the one losing, and now we have no belts Banks and one belt Bayley, and this is actually a continuance of their story, obviously. So they don't have the tag team titles anymore. So I don't expect to see them on Raw, which almost guarantees that they will be on Raw. It's really weird, but it was not bad. It wasn't a bad match. They certainly did what they could, given what they had. Just Shayna Baszler as a babyface is so weird. It's going to take a long time getting used to that. It's going to be so weird, and. But I guess they just, like I said, they're just going to take advantage of Nia Jax is limited physically because she's so big, and I guess the knee surgeries and everything. But they're just going to take advantage of her being her personality, and that's going to be what's going to carry the team as far as that's concerned. And I'm interested in seeing where that goes because I've never really thought that of Nia Jax as having a big personality, and maybe that's kind of where we're going to go with that. So King Corbin and Matt Riddle had a solid match. Corbin works very methodically. Riddle Corbin also attacked Riddle during his entrance. So it was pretty cool. The Deep Six is such a badass move, dog. Like, that's a finish. Like, I know people like the End of Days and almost nobody kicks out of it, but I love the Deep Six. Deep Six is such a badass move. Corbin needs more exciting offense, like the Deep Six. Like, Deep Six is a great move. End of Days is a great move. But most of Corbin's offense is generic big man offense, where it's kind of like Randy Orton-esque offense, where he kind of grabs a hold and he'll hold you in the hold forever, and he'll talk shit, but he kind of just holds the hold. He doesn't do exciting things. I know he's a heel. He shouldn't have to. Like, he has his big spots where he does exciting things within the match. And but it kind of makes all his matches kind of formulaic. He kind of needs to diversify it a bit. But they did a good job here because Matt Riddle used mostly his grappling to get out of things. Like, he would, he used the Kimura to get out of. When he was getting his ass kicked, he kind of used the Kimura to get out of it. And he turned it into a rear naked choke. And, Corbin had to deal with that. And ultimately, this was also a match where a weird finish where, Matt Riddle won with the floating bro, which is not his finisher. So, okay. Matt Riddle used the go to sleep to set up for the floating bro. And the floating bro got the pinfall and the win. And afterwards, Matt Riddle thought that it was over and that he was done with Baron Corbin. And Corbin attacked him and actually punched him through a table, where he threw him atop a table. It's like it's in catering or something. And then he had beat on him so bad the table collapsed. And this storyline obviously is going to continue because they actually brought up Matt Riddle's affair before the match started. That Riddle is going to, he said he's going to show Matt Riddle something about how he's not a good guy in the ring, and that's like he's not a good guy at home or something like that. And Riddle took it seriously. You know, he didn't come out like bro and pointing and dancing and stuff. He came out serious. You know, he came out serious and approached the subject as, you know, serious, even though he didn't really get a chance to do much of anything because he got clotheslined like during his entrance. But they did a good job of using Matt Riddle's strengths, his sort of MMA stuff, to get him out of these situations that Corbin had put him in. The match between Matt Riddle and Corbin was very similar to the Big E Sheamus match, which actually was the third match. So Big E and Sheamus had a decent match, but it was almost the exact same match as the Corbin Riddle match. Sheamus dominated the match. Oh, the difference is that Sheamus worked a leg, which actually saw Sheamus doing interesting submission holds. So, you know, but Sheamus worked a methodical heavyweight style. You know, he made Big E sell a lot. He used a heel hook. He used it. I don't know what Edge's submission hold is called. Is it called the Education, the Educator, the Education, something to that effect, where it kind of looks like a sharpshooter? But Sheamus actually used that hold on Big E, so it was pretty cool. Big E did his stuff. He came back from behind, and won with a power bomb into the big ending, which was a reverse from a brogue kick. Sheamus is a relentless offensive guy. I mean, he is smothering offensively, and that's why I like Sheamus, man. Sheamus, I like Sheamus because of that. He smothers guys. He doesn't give you much of anything. So when you really get to working on him, things it kind of feels bigger. There was actually one point, this might have been the only point in the show, where something interesting was said by commentary, where he talked about Big E's Intercontinental Championship reign being overlooked and not many people remembering that he even had one. And, sort of Corey Graves was talking about this. And it also became a subject with Sheamus that, Sheamus has won every title, with the exception of the Universal Championship. Sheamus has won everything. And yet Sheamus is also not really seen as being a top-level, Hall of Fame level performer. And Corey Graves said something like that, there needs to be a more focus on, these are two guys trying to get to the title, and hoping for a significant run. As to say that all the shit Sheamus has done has been insignificant. I was just kind of like, wow. Like, we can say that about Big E. We can say that Big E's Intercontinental Championship run was insignificant, because it was in the grand scheme of things. If you didn't see it, you didn't miss anything. But Sheamus as the World Heavyweight Champion was really significant because he was damn near undefeated. He was just beating everybody, and he won the WWE title from beating John Cena. So Sheamus got a hell of a run. He got it was a good 8 years ago, but he got a hell of a run. And you kind of have to ask that question, like, Sheamus as sort of a gatekeeper, for SmackDown, it's not really a good position. I really would like for him to go higher, but you can't, because now I'm still on the train of Roman is not really a heel yet, because he didn't really do anything heelish. He kicked the Fiend in the balls, but this match was no disqualification. So, but if you want to accept Roman as a full-blown heel, that would make Sheamus, the third heel, the fourth, maybe even the fifth, depending on where you see Strowman. And where you see Corbin, because Corbin and Sheamus is pretty much the same character, so it's hard to say where Sheamus fits in the roster now. That, if you want to move Roman to being the top heel, then Strowman, not only Strowman, but also Sheamus and Corbin have definitely been affected. So, maybe Sheamus needs to turn for babyface. I think that would be pretty cool. So the United States champion is now Bobby Lashley. He had a pretty cool match with Apollo Crews. Lashley owned most of the match, obviously. Being the bigger, stronger guy, Lashley pretty much took control. Apollo Crews has some pretty good offense. I'm not a big fan of the stand-in moonsault. I know that pops a lot of people. I just think it's kind of unnecessary. But he also does some pretty cool He has some pretty good intensity as far as he can fire up and everything. But Lashley wins with the full Nelson. You know, it was a good decision. I wanted Lashley sort of to be the gatekeeper on Raw. I mean, on Raw, yeah. And he won with what they call it. They call it the full Lashley now. So now the Hurt Business has a title, and they've been elevated because they have the title. And Apollo Crews attacked them after the match, you know, because it's not over. You know, Apollo Crews isn't dead. He's going to get title shots and rematches and stuff like that. But this is good for Ricochet and Mustafa Ali and Cedric Alexander and all those guys. Because all those guys who have been fighting the Hurt Business, now they have a reason to fight them. Now they have something to chase. And, you know, Apollo Crews, you know, you really see where you at when you fall off. And I'm really interested in seeing where that goes. You know, but Lashley should be the WWE champion right now. He's not, unfortunately. So, being the U.S. champion is good. You know, it's a good spot for him, at least until, you know, I hate to think that Keeley is going to get his shine because, you know, Lashley kind of deserves that spot, man. But whatever. Whatever. Again, that's another whatever. But MVP and Shelton Benjamin did a good job of motivating Lashley and, you know, being there. And, you know, I would like for them to actually do something with Apollo Crews as far as when he came out. That he should have come out with Alexander and Ricochet to watch his back. You would think that these characters will get smarter. Like, because this feud with the Hurt Business has been going on for so long. And that if these guys are going to be in each other's corners, why wouldn't they just naturally be in each other's corners? And that's something like people need to be a little bit smarter when they're putting these things together. And in the kickoff show, they actually changed the kickoff match on me. The Riott Squad defeated the Iconics, and which was actually a good match and told a decent story. So the story is that the Riott Squad, though they came out together, it seemed like they were together, even though they officially became a team again after the match. But during the match, it was sort of they told the story of whether Liv can trust Ruby. Because, of course, when Ruby returned from her injury, she attacked Liv Morgan and said that Liv Morgan was nothing without her. And then they told the story of Ruby Riott basically feeling bad for what she did and, you know, feeling left out. And she wanted Liv to forgive her and to be partners again. And, you know, that's what this storyline is all about. Now, it's a good thing for Ruby Riott because it gives her some redemption from all of her time for being a heel. But it sucks for Liv Morgan because it seemed like they had a good plan for her going back to when she started with the whole Lana thing. It seemed like they had something planned for Liv Morgan. And then out of nowhere, the carpet was yanked from up under her. But so now she's kind of gone back to where she was before. Where she's supposed to have been the new Liv Morgan. But now she's back to being in the Riott Squad Liv Morgan. And, you know, that's kind of like, I know it's full circle and that's storytelling is going full circle, but it needs to be something different this time around, you know, and this gives, of course, a chance to tell that story differently. But if Liv Morgan's just going to go back to being Ruby's sidekick, and what was all the time of development for, you know, what was all that for? But they told us the story during the match that, you know, when Liv was knocked down, she thought it was Ruby that knocked her off the ring apron. And Ruby was begging her to tag out, you know, tagging her. Like, you know, please don't leave. Please don't leave. And Iconics was beating Ruby's ass. And this needs to be said. Billie Kay is horrible. Okay, Billie Kay is one of the worst wrestlers I've ever seen, I think. I think it's official. I think she's one of the worst I've ever seen. Billie Kay is the personality of the Iconics. She's the funny one, you know, but Peyton Royce is the worker. But hopefully the Riott Squad will actually be the ones to take the titles from Baszler and Jax. I think that they should have just given the titles to the Riott Squad in the first place and just had that as Ruby's redemption, where, I mean, just think about how great that story would have been, where you had Banks and Bayley, who are the best friends, and they're having some dissension in the ranks because there's shade being thrown back and forth. And then the Riott Squad, they're supposedly best friends, but they've had their falling out already. And Ruby's trying to redeem herself by, you know, that would have been an excellent storyline about two different types of friendships that are paralleling each other, because you get to see what the Riott Squad, what Banks and Bayley are going to go through, as far as in the future, Banks and Bayley are going to be fighting each other, just like Liv Morgan and Ruby Riott were fighting each other. But now that the Riott Squad are, they're on the kickoff show, and they finally came up with a good idea to take the title off of Bayley and Banks, and they decided not to give it to a natural tag team that people might actually care about and tell a story that actually makes sense. And, just sitting here like thinking about it, especially after Jax and Baszler won, I was sitting here thinking to myself, like, that should be the Riott Squad. And I know a lot of people don't care about them, but it would have been a perfect parallel story if you could have showed the dominance of Banks and Bayley as a team, and then showed how pathetic the Riott Squad were in their original incarnation, and how they were fighting each other, and how Liv Morgan still doesn't trust Ruby Riott, and that being the emotional anchor of their team, while you have on the other side the shade between Banks and Bayley about, now Bayley's gonna no doubt make some cheap shots about her still having a title and Banks not having a title. It would have been a great storyline to parallel between those two, but maybe we'll get that eventually. It doesn't make any sense, but it would have been perfect to take one set of best friends and replace them with another set of best friends and make that Ruby's redemption, and Liv, getting her, getting to return back to where she was. But whatever. They do what they do, man. But the Iconics are a good team for the Riott Squad to work with, because the Iconics are good and annoying. And Billie Kay has a hell of a personality. She's actually funny, but her work is not good. It is not good. All right, so that's Payback. It was a solid show. I enjoyed every match. There was no match that I didn't like. Some matches were, the Sheamus and the Big E and the Corbin and Riddle, they were a little slow. Basically because Sheamus and Corbin, the way that they work, there were some surprise finishes. Guys not winning with their finishers. Not thrilled about how the main event was booked, as far as Roman comes in, does like 3 minutes of work, and walks out with the title, which I guess is heelish because he kind of screwed the Fiend over. But I don't know, man. I'm not on the Roman as a full blown heel yet, as far as I can see it as being Heyman is manipulating things. Also, this is something that should also be noted. I thought that we were going to do something with Retribution on this show, because a synonym for Retribution is Payback, and you would think that would have been a perfect chance, and it seemed like they was teasing that with all the things that were put together on the network, where they was constantly using the word Retribution, but they didn't do anything. There was no Retribution angle. So I'm guessing we're going to get it this week. We're going to get maybe because they've been ending SmackDown on surprises lately. For like the past 3 or 4 months, there's always been a big surprise angle at the end of SmackDown, and I think that'll probably be it. Is where you'll get some reveals about Retribution. It'll probably be on SmackDown, but it should have been tonight. It should have been on this show, because it seems like the Retribution thing has been all but forgotten in the haze of Paul Heyman teaming up with Roman Reigns and Keith Lee being brought up and people being mad about that, and Banks and Bayley and all the things they've been doing, and Dominic and Seth Rollins and all the stuff they've been doing. That the whole Retribution thing sort of fell to the wayside. But we didn't forget. We need to interject them back into the story somehow. And I'm guessing it's going to be SmackDown. But what did you guys think of this show? Like this video, share, and subscribe. Thank you guys for listening to me ramble about wrestling. I'll talk to you guys later.